let's get started on cursor. So there's a lot of things to go through. Unfortunately, some of this. There we go. Okay. No. It was working earlier. Cool. All right. It doesn't stop working. All right, so there's a lot to cover. I'm basically going to try to go over the basics for cursor and try to run through as much of it as I can quickly because there's resources on kind of basic stuff on the internet. So I'll try to then jump on more advanced tips that I'm finding in different places. And just some caveats before I focus too much on the details. Let me try to make this on that expand. Okay. So let's make this bigger. Turn this bigger. Okay. So there's a bunch of different tools. Okay, there's cursor, there's aider, there's Z. We don't know what the perfect setup is yet. And I'm every day learning about different ways to leverage these tools. And so I'm kind of asking you guys to do the same. When these are coming out, you should be paying attention. Sometimes some of the feature cursor work really well. And you should just be aware of the pros and cons and not just get obsessive about one particular tool. And yeah, cursor's still evolving every day. There was an update yesterday, and I still don't have access. And it changes some things for the top. So it's just worth keeping up to date on what's happening. So let's go into actually cursor. I'm not gonna have you guys look at a test file. So this is cursor. Everything that Callum said. Or Callum, sorry, for his previous talk for VS Code. All the extensions, everything works. Cursor is a fork of VS Code, so you can do the settings. All the extensions are the same for Marketplace. Everything is reconfigurable, and there's also a feature in Cursor where as soon as you download it, you can basically import all your settings that you already had. So it can be pretty quick in doing that. To start with, I'm just going to go over the settings that you, I guess, should kind of go through when you first download the app. So there's the rules for AI. This basically means that Cursor is trying to actually uses a bunch of LLMs for you can see in the chat here and AE and all that type of stuff. This rules for AI is basically your system prompt for every LLM call that you're doing. What you want to do here is create some kind of system that is high level enough for the kinds of corpus that you want in your LLM when you're doing it across all your projects. So might not be the best rules, but I've designed some of it and I'm trying to improve on my own rules every day. There's a bunch of stuff whatever, PEP8, do some clean code stuff, use these kinds of libraries, etc. And one example would be okay, you're the world's best AI research engineer, blah blah blah, trying to really get the model to understand what it's doing. So this gets used in every single chat. There's another other, I guess lesser known feature called the .cursor rules file, which you have to check. And this is a file you add in specific projects. So the rules for AI gets used in all projects. The .cursor rules gets used in this specific project. So you can essentially say okay, these are the packages that I want to use. This is what the project is about. When you use this particular library, I need this kind of setting. And so you're trying to really help the model understand, output the correct thing. Because otherwise, if you model create me a website, it's going to give you HTML trash. But if you tell it use TypeScript and use Svelte or whatever, these kinds of specific text, then it will like have a much better understanding of what you're trying to build. So you like kind of want to create these cursor rules. And these cursor rules, unfortunately, there aren't too many like good ones for like ML, but there's like a website called the directory where there's like a bunch of different examples that you can kind of at least take the template and try to like create your own. Typically what I might do is I'll look at a template, and then if there's one related to what I'm doing, then I'll use it. But if it's not, then I'll take it, put it into Claude, and then do a bunch of like back and forth between like, this is what my project is about, and then I'll like try to like restructure it for this specific project. Yeah, so let's go back to the settings. So those are the main things. You should turn on your cursor rules when you use it. There's privacy mode. I'm gonna try to jump through. These are like some of the different models that you can use. You can like add them or remove them. The O1 models are like there now. You can add your own models if you want. So like, let's say there's like a new like math like LM that is coming out and it's not part of the list. Like you'll be able to like just connect it to that specific model. You can add your API keys. There's different features. I'm not going to go over all of them, but basically like enable them. There's like code base indexing. So this is like one of the cool features with the cursor. So when you like at a specific thing, you can like add as context for your LLM. So let's say I'm like, I want to add the markdown formatting thing, and now it's like added to the like chat for the LLM, right? And I like also want to like add like the AI, I don't know, safety biz ideas folder or whatever, and it like adds all of the like relevant files in that folder. And then you can like start talking to it and like just normally do your thing. You can also do command like enter, and it will just add the entire repo. And then basically the call. Now what I will say here is like, when you're adding things to your thing that you're trying to do, you should be trying to like balance between not adding too much and not adding enough. So you kind of want to model like enough structure for like what needs to like understand the problem that you're trying to solve and how things connect, but not everything, especially if the base is getting pretty big. Like your model's just going to get totally lost in like all of the code. So you really want to like kind of you develop a taste, like an intuition about like how much you should be at. So that's another thing we're mentioning. There's the docs as well. So let's say you're there's changes to like the PyTorch docs, and you want to make sure that the model is up to date. You've been pre-trained like on data that was a year ago. So you essentially just add the docs for PyTorch. And then like boom, when it's like, you know, when you're asking questions, it will like look at the current up-to-date docs and then try to answer on that. There's other like features here that you get, but I'll skip over that. For now, the models you can run are all here. You can do and it'll like switch through the models quick enough. Let's see. I think we can skip over most of it. There's a cool feature in the terminal actually, where basically you do command here, you do command K, and it opens up like a chat number, and you can be like, okay, how do I create a file? You don't remember it's like bash command or whatever, and then it will like run through the generation, and then we'll just do the like command for you, and then you can like hit like command enter, and then it'll actually run. Yeah. I think is that like when you do run these like commands in the side here, like create a text funnel for the top or something. Then it'll like, you know, start and run the code. There's like 3 different features. So there's the ask. So like let's say there's like a code block or whatever, and you want more information about it, you can click add, and it'll add it to like the next message send. You can copy it, or you can hit apply. And so the apply feature, you have to basically be in the specific script that you're like doing. You're applying that piece of code or text or whatever to your IDE. This kind of is to like jump to the other feature that like people talk about a lot lately, which is Composer. So there's a few steps here. So the reason why people are very interested in the code is it actually will create the files for you. and we'll be able to like run across files. So let me see if I have like a repo here example. So I kind of will treat like some like realistic-ish of like what I would do in a scenario when I'm like starting a project. First, I'll probably actually just go to like Claude, and then start detail my project plan. I'll try to like be like, okay, a specific project I'm working on, I'm trying to like really scope out what this is about. And this is like kind of important because my intuition is that like a lot of times like do you use coding assistants and you like don't give an option, and it will be really to like actually do want to spend time kind of set up a project plan, trying to figure out like, okay, what stack that I want to use, how I want things to connect or whatever. Then you kind of do a bit of back and forth with like your LLM. Once you have like some kind of structure, then I'd like copy the details and then I'll paste it in the compose. And like, okay, implement this thing in this particular, and then basically here is it created all of those relevant to this. You need to like go through all the project steps, but I find that it just better results in the end. And it will do this even if you create like the code before. But yeah, it'll create all of these, and now like, bam, you have like an entire like structure for your code base. Like I guess advanced tips that people use. There's the prompts folder example. So let's say specific kinds of tasks that you or you notice that you want, and you're like typing it many times. And you like get so annoyed that you like might write like one sentence and you hope the LLM understands what you're talking about. But in reality, what you really should be doing is like creating a markdown file of the specific thing that you want model to be good at with all the edge cases and everything. And then once you create a like new description of what you want, you can be like, okay, whatever, text to SQL, and then you just add that to the prompt itself. And then the model has a like understanding of like what you prefer, like what are the errors done in the past, and like get to the like what would be the solution to that error. You're like improving the prompt over time, like allows you to just better output time. I will try to give questions at the end. So for the one is like to-dos. So it's like another thing that people do with like the for example. They will out all of the instructions in a mark file beforehand. And they might even like, if there's like components to your project, you'll like a instruction markdown file or multiple components instead of trying to put everything in one markdown file. And then you like open up Poser and then you like that specific file and you, okay, implement this or whatever. And then you like, it'll have some kind of trace of what you're working on before and you can like it in the future. Other things. So I kind of skipped over like some of the code features. So one code feature that is like fun is the feature. So if you like pick up a bunch of code and you're like whatever, edit this to add typing or something. Let's just assume it understands what I'm saying. And then it'll just like do all the edits, right? And as it's going through that, you can either accept higher like generation, or you can go through like different parts, like either say no or yes or whatever. And then, yeah, let's see. Okay. It's just this. All right, so what else? Let me try to over, I have some notes here, make sure I don't forget everything. This is pretty much covers the picture of what I wanted to cover. So yeah, I can go into detail, but what I prefer to do is answer questions now, so that I'm more, I guess, doing the talk for you guys and not just like doing something that you guys don't want. All right, so any questions? Sure. When you do the ads, yeah, if I don't know what they're doing under hood, my guess is, or like my intuition that it doesn't really matter too much when I'm doing it. So I think it'll add the rules for AI first, And then it'll add like whatever project-specific stuff for your cursor. Then everything else, my guess is it's adding whatever as you add in the text itself. Like it'll be the order of whatever is in there. But so yeah, I'll instead of, because I don't know the specific structure that it's in, I'll be like, be sure to edit whatever at a specific file or whatever, and then I just kind of seems to me like working, like seems to understand that like this specific part is the thing that I'm pointing to. Yeah. So for the paid version, you have these like, so you can use models. You don't have to add your key. And you have like there's like basically two modes. There's a fast loading time, whatever, where you're like basically getting immediate response. And after you like use so many responses over the month, eventually it'll push you more and more to the queue of like waiting for the response. Generally not that much. Like I might have to wait an additional like max 5 seconds. But what I usually do is if I'm noticing that it's taking a lot of time, it's like a bunch of people are cursor at the same time, for example, I will go into my settings, and then I'll go to models, and then I'll add like, okay, you need the API key. So I get like an response. So I usually switch between the two. If there's like some additional, like you get features sooner, they've basically been updating it like once, so it's hard for me to know because they've blown up something or whatever. Before you had to pay to get the cursor, the Copilot Plus feature that they have, which is a feature I didn't talk about as well. But basically, like, so you like want to start to like make edits across the file, and basically the model realizes that you're going to be making edits across the entire file. So you like whatever, you convert all of the strings into like a format, some particular format. It like realizes that like that's happening quite a lot. Basically, there's like a tab that pops up, and it will like guess where you're going to go, and you just hit tab, and it will move your cursor to that point, and then you hit tab again, and like do the auto completion, do the edits, and then you just like, so since I like do that, and I'm like, edit the entire file like just through this. Other times I'll be like, okay, do this. I could do tab, but I could also just do, like, I know what I'm doing. I'll just do the edit like really quick, and then I'll like write whatever I want. So everything you showed us just now, yeah, all of it is in the free bin. I think they have some. You can use some of the models without your API key at the beginning, but you like have some limited messages you can send. But your version, you can add your API key, and then I think most of the features, even the Copilot Plus, I think now. Sorry, they what? Oh, okay, in the free version? Right. Well, it is. Yeah, I think people are using it now, so, but I think it would still if you add your API key. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm paying for it, and I'm still having difficulty, like, all being fast responses, so, yeah. Sure.
Is it Gator files here? You're using both Gator and Cursor
yes.
Together. How do you, like, choose what to use when?
So I'm still, okay, well, just to give a description of what Aider is. So Aider can use an LLM to make edits across your entire code base. You can ask it like specific questions that you like actually use it. I could like do the entire setup or whatever, but pick Aider, and then it will like open up some kind of like thing inside your code base, and you like do the setup, and then you could be like whatever, add some doc strings to the file, and then it will start to like route a detailed plan it's trying to do, and then will seemingly do this thing, right? But the key point here is that like it goes over your code base and will do your edits or whatever that you want. I think that like I'm still getting in the hang of like understanding when to use cursor, when to use aider. Again, you can API key for this. You don't have to pay for some kind of aider thing. I think that when it comes to like doing edits like this across the entire code base, I will do aider. When it comes to like project structure things, maybe, then I'll like really want to have a view in the composer to like what is like happening. And it's just kind of a, you just around with it and then you get a vibe of like the pros and cons, how quickly am I like moving forward when I'm using one or the other. And like I said at the beginning of the talk, like, these tools are like iterating so fast that like I think it's like a history file. So one of the features for like it will like keep track of the edits that it's making and all this that it's doing so that it like knows what it did prior, while cursor will not do this by default. And there are basically people who are doing like workarounds to make this work within cursor. They'll like status report files or MD files, and it will like, and then they'll put it into cursor, the composer, and we'll be like, by the way, after you do the edits for the code, please status report. And then yeah, you just kind of thing. So it's like hard to say like at this point in a week, like cursor has implemented like some better version of aider thing. So I'm like, figuring it out as I go to like what's master and what's like, yeah, and not trying to like restrict myself to like, oh, I'm some cursor fanboy that's like only focused on this particular tool. Yeah.
Just wanted to check on the like when you like created the code app for that, you're not the same problem.
Yeah.
So you were like working in forward chat GPT on like what should be on the and you were doing all that thinking, just pasted that in to the chat. Because chat.
Yes. Wait, is it this one? That's this one. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, is it that or you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the word that I use, and I think it will be dependent, but like I just thought, okay, what is the project about? What are different things that I want to use? And just being like very specific, like I use Streamlit for the app. I want to use like Express instead of this other thing. And then kind of outlining those things in the plan when I'm using Claude. I could do this inside of Perl, but sometimes the prompt inside of the Claude is like so good that like I'd rather just jump to that quickly. And then once I have like a full project structure, then I'll hand it off to like the composer to like just all the files and do all the edits. Yeah. Thing that I didn't mention about the composer as well is you can create these like and actually changed names. I can't remember. Changed names like yesterday. Basically, there's like a new project. So when you create a project, it's this thing where let's say you like there's a specific kind of project that you end up creating a lot, or some kind of like structure that you create a lot, and you actually, or like you're in a specific project and you want to add. You end up realizing that you add specific files to the context many times. What you can do is essentially have like create a project and then go into the like side here, which like has like focus files, and these files like you can just add the ones that you want, and then once you like add to the context this specific project, it will automatically add all of the focus files to the LLM call. So you don't have to like remember like which ones you want to add to the thing. Right now it only works within the composer itself, but the new version that is coming out will be running in the chat as well. So you can just like, instead of having to like add like the README and all these things like many times, you can just be like, okay, add this thing, and then it'll add it to the context. All right, let me see. Is there any questions? Oh, cool. Yeah.
I'm curious, like, you feel like this is really made to when you write code functionally, or just you do all your speed grabbing images, like?
Yeah. So I will say I almost don't write code more. I'm prompt engineering a bunch, and just like telling it to do stuff. I think my workflow has been like I'm writing much less code and I'm debugging a lot more. Because I'm able to like go from like nothing to like something really quickly, and then trying to like figure out what are the errors that are like popping up. And I mean, some of the things that I'll like ask the model to do, like, come up with unit tests, do these things, and like not have to like worry about those kinds of, type hints or whatever. Doc strings, I'm like, okay, I just want to worry about the big picture. I don't want to worry about like little details here. So in terms of like getting started with a project, it's like really quick. It's, as I said, like I used to code a lot more. Now I'm like coding much less and debugging a lot more. And so some faults that maybe come is like, if you have a really small base, it's a lot easier to use. The more complex your code base is, the harder it will be to like use the LLM, and you will run into errors. Well, I guess one tip I might give is like, try not to have like 1,000 lines of code files, and just use the composer and be like, can we factor this please? And then it'll just, whatever, create all the files you want and try to refactor it. The reason you might want to do this is because the model doesn't need all of those 1,000 lines of code. It just needs the like specific like functions that are related to the specific problem that you're working on. And what else? Yeah, I think in general, it's like completely changing the way that and basically I'm working on something called the Alignment Research Assistant. I won't go into detail, but basically like the reason I'm working on this is because I'm realizing that like prompting the model really well, having really good like ideas, for example, if you need to like really focus on, okay, what is your project about? What is you're trying to do? And as you get better and better at implementation, the thing that you're going to be doing is like trying to like point the model to the right point in latent space for it to like know what you're trying to build. And so you're just like going to do less and less implementation and more of like, how do I point the model in the right direction? So yeah, I feel like it's done a lot. I would say, like, yeah, just be careful. Like sometimes at the beginning, I'm doing less coding. Later on, I'm like, I have to like go in the details and like do some edit or whatever. And like, there's still a lot of value in like knowing what the code is doing. And sometimes I'll ask the model like, what is this thing, right? Yeah.
Do you share your rules for AI contest?
Yeah, I can post it in the Slack or yeah.
I missed it. Are you running on Speed? It's like a VS Code instance.
Yeah, I think it's open source, and so I think Cursor is basically building on top of Continue. You can use it inside of VS Code as an extension. You can also add it to Cursor if you want to have two chats, whatever. But this chat window here is basically Continue Dev. Yeah.
Experience editing code, what like?
Yeah, I haven't worked with it much. Some of the projects that I've been working on have not, I don't think would have benefited from adding like PyTorch or whatever. But I imagine like, a lot of these in Arena would like benefit from just adding the PyTorch doc, for example. Or like you can actually add your own documentation or something. So it doesn't have to be like some other person or whatever. You can create some kind of documentation online that is related to Arena or whatever, and then add that. Sometimes like really add like a bunch of files that are related to my project in the project itself. Even though I'm like not writing on that code or whatever, it's just I'm able to like give quick context for like what the things that I want to be cognizant of. Cool. All right, let me see. I just want to look real quick if there's any questions in the. Okay, cool. Failure modes. So critical failure modes, I think I kind of went over quickly earlier, is jumping straight into like using the cursor with like 2 sentences, like what you want to do, and not being detailed enough about like the text various things. I mostly get that when I do this, it ends up like local minimum that it's very hard to get out of after. And then you like start bug, and then you're like, okay, I just like more problems than I like initially want. So I think like making sure that you have like a really good project planning is like very useful. What else? I think sometimes once you do get into the things, you'll prompt the model quite a lot, and you'll end up debugging, and then you'll like keep trying to model, and it like still won't, like after 4 or 5 times, it won't understand what you're talking about, and we'll fix the error. And usually like willing to like as coders, like, yeah, okay, the model's not gonna get it. Like, either I start a new chat and I like try to give it context for it to like, right now it's like stuck in this mode of like basically giving out shitty code and not understanding the error. Or you like start to look at the code, debug every single step. You try to understand like what is happening here. So it's easy to like, once you get in the habit of it, to like not look at your much anymore. So I think that's worth keeping in mind to like look at your code and do the edits. What else? Yeah. For like O1, for example. So you can switch between. Sometimes I do this. I think that like for example is like better with like formatting and stuff. So when it comes to that thing, like I have like a prompt, like do I have it here? No, I think it might be this one. I have a prompt for basically mark formatting. So I'm like, every single time I've like been creating like a mark, it like is not passing, and I'm like really annoyed. And I just like created a mark file, and then I at that file, I'm like, all right, grab this, down, like, and then it will like automatically go through the entire like edit the like file to the linter, and yeah, kind of thing. And oh yeah, so we're like O1 and stuff. Better at math, like editing, just not generating text. So I will sometimes between the two, depending on like what tasks I'm doing, between like Sonnet 4.0 and like O1. And oh yeah, and then I guess some of like the descriptions I've given in crosstalk have been like pretty odd in terms of different projects. We're just at the point of like really understand how to like best use the system. So, and it's like pretty annoying, like come up with like prompts or feel like, like I'm spending 30 minutes of like prompt for like, or a set of prompts that thing. But I think you like get founding like benefits over time if you're like just aware of like things that you really do and then create for it. Oftentimes the way that I'll actually end a prompt, I'll go into like something like, and try to write out some things. But other things you can do is like just like do Command K and then it's like create a prompt to pass a Python linter thing, and then it'll just like pass the initial things, and then I just like accept whatever, and then I look at those to see if it's like doing the thing that I do, and I like don't have to like write the entire thing. And then I like might pass this off to like some model, just do like a little bit of improvement, but it's like this would have maybe taken like maybe a year ago would have me like something minutes to like go through all the different rules, the documentation or whatever. Now like I can pretty much write from like under 5 minutes. And yeah, so I'll say like for AI thing for you guys, would say like create your own cursor rules, look at what your project is about, to try to really improve your model. Just like be aware of like what information do you want to give the model for it to actually be better at what it's doing. And sometimes I'll actually ask the model this question, like, hey, I want you to do this. I don't know all of the things I need to give you, like for you to like be able to like answer this really well. So like what things that I'm missing? And then I'll like list a few things and then I'll like add a few more details. Yeah, so working on the research assistant thing, and hoping that like that basically ends up integrating with like these tools, whether it's Cursor or Zed or what, and essentially like allows researchers to like create project plans very quickly, detailed, make sure everything is correct, and then you can like pass this off to like the computer and like various things. It'll like maybe automatically create Cursor rules files, various things, like a bunch of prompts, and we'll just like quickly do the like idea to like impatient feedback loops like much faster. So that's the overview for the talk. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jack. I'm going to stop the recording. I will share the recording later.